I've tried every variety of intoxicant, wine, ale, and Argonian swill this world has to offer. I've sampled skooma with Khajiit, licked an Argonian history, and hunted magical toads with the Bosma. None of that compares to Nord mead. There's nothing like it. After you drink enough mead, you learn the names of the brewmasters who create them. A drunk Nord will gladly punch another in the face over the honor of a good brewmaster. Then again, a drunk Nord will punch anyone for just about anything. The culture of drinking seems to be what keeps Nords together. A Nord can gain respect by consuming more mead than anyone else, just as he's respected for surviving a blizzard or killing a bear with a sharp stick. Mead flows through the veins of drunken Nords all across the snow-covered province of Skyrim, fueling their laughter, their fistfights, and bardic tales. Taverns are filled with emotions, and those who help provide these emotions reap heavy coin and influence. It's of no surprise that the Nord family behind one of Skyrim's most popular meads wields great power. The Blackbriars are this family, and the mead I'm talking about is aptly named Blackbriar Mead. The word briar refers to a member of the rose plant family, and a black rose, well, that's a classic symbol of death. It's befitting for a family such as the Blackbriars, for these producers of what some high elves refer to as honey wine are the furthest thing from sweet. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Michael and welcome to Fudge Muppet. Today we're going to be talking about the Blackbriar family, a bloodline with the connections, resources, and lack of compassion to have you tracked down, tortured, and left lifeless, black and blue at the bottom of the closest body of water. Even Ungrian, the elf staffing the counter at the Blackbriar Meadery in Riften, will tell the Dragonborn, "I'm the fourth person to work the tasting counter in the last year. The last three are at the bottom of Lake Honric." Ungrian will also refer to the mead as the purest in all of Skyrim, and there's a chance that it's not just the mead that the Blackbriars want to keep pure, perhaps their bloodline too, if you know what I mean. There's a lot of confusion surrounding the relations of the Blackbriar family tree, and I really want to know, did the Blackbriars go full Targaryen mode? We'll explore that today. As far as the mead itself goes, I'd say that while we can't exactly trust anyone related to the Blackbriar business when they tell us it's the best, we should still acknowledge the success of the mead must somewhat be a testament to its quality. Sure, as we'll see, the Blackbriar family will stoop to any ethical low to reduce business competition, but the mead itself has to be good for people to consume so much of it. Mead is made by fermenting honey and water, but each meadery has their own recipe, adding additional ingredients such as fruit and spices. In terms of value, Blackbriar mead comes in at 25 septims, 5 times more expensive than regular non-branded Nord mead. There's also a much rarer brew valued at 100 septims, known as Blackbriar Reserve. This special potent drink can only be obtained on occasion in Skyrim, so I'd recommend savoring each and every drop. As far as statistical benefit goes, neither are very good. The standard Blackbriar mead restores 20 points of stamina and makes stamina regenerate 40% slower for 30 seconds. Blackbriar Reserve takes this to 30 points of stamina restored, with the stamina regen slowed just the same. I'd definitely just be drinking this for role-playing. Interestingly, Honningbrew mead is a popular competitor of the Blackbriar's brew, and while it costs 5 septims less, it restores the same amount of stamina with less of a negative effect. To some, this may prove the superiority of Honningbrew, but at the end of the day, we can't step into the game world to try any mead for real. What's quite funny though is that even though the true tastes and feelings the liquids elicit are lost to imagination, the owner of the Honningbrew meadery secretly keeps a bottle of Blackbriar mead for himself in a bowl under his bed. What's not left to imagination is the cutthroat, pompous attitude of most of the members who make up the Blackbriar family. So who are these members and what kind of authority do they wield? Well, just like the bees kept to harvest the delicious honey which goes into the renowned mead, the Blackbriar family is also headed by a kind of queen, a matriarch by the name of Maven Blackbriar. Maven's name carries weight in Riften, although if you're basic enough to tell her this, she'll angrily tell you off.
Nothing gets done without my approval in this city. I have the Jarl's ear and the guards in my pocket. Anyone makes trouble for me and I pay a visit to the Thieves' Guild. Make me angry and I contact the Dark Brotherhood. You do well to remember that the next time you make such a stupid observation.
Maven seems to get most of the credit for the Blackbriar's success. So in Skyrim, Kurava, the Argonian at the Bee and Barb Inn, mentions that Riften's biggest export used to be fishing and honey until the Blackbriar family moved in. Now the meadery is the biggest game in town. Then Hemming, Maven's son, can also tell the player, the Blackbriars have been instrumental in keeping Riften on the map. Before the meadery was opened almost 50 years ago, this town was nothing, a simple waypoint for those journeying on to Morrowind. This statement seems rather true, despite the city's historical glories. In year 98 of the Fourth Era, the Jarl was assassinated and Hoskin Crossed Daggers took over. He enforced harsh laws and punishments along with unreasonably high taxes. By the year 129 of the Fourth Era, the city was in squalor, resulting in a revolt taking place which would see Riften practically burnt to the ground. It was rebuilt over 5 years, but it remained a shadow of its former self. That is, of course, until the Blackbriars put it back on the map by opening the meadery about year 152 of the Fourth Era. As the infamous head of the Blackbriar family, Maven calls the shots and maintains connections. Other family members include Ingen, Sibbi, and Hemming, and as I alluded to earlier, we'll end up discussing the confusion regarding their family tree, but for now just know it appears they're all children of Maven, with Sibbi and Ingen seemingly being grandchildren as well. Unofficially, Maven controls most of Riften, and it's not just the Thieves Guild and Dark Brotherhood she's in touch with, but also influential members of the Thalmor and the Empire. She hires mercenaries and thugs to do her bidding, with one of them greeting you almost as soon as you walk into Riften. Named Maul, he more or less just aims to warn you that if you mess with him or the Blackbriars, he'll be messing with you. Maul is not a Blackbriar by blood, but he's considered close enough to the family to be named Housecarl if Maven is made Jarl, which happens if you help the Empire take over Skyrim. Interestingly, it seems Maven can also forge important documents too, or she used to anyway. There's a special quill you can find called the Quill of Gemination. It belongs to Maven, but was lost in a strongbox in a rowboat which has since sunk to the bottom of the water outside of Riften. The quill is said to have the ability to replicate any writing that the user is viewing, but requires special ink to do so. You can return it to Maven, to which she'll joke that she wrote it off years ago. Maven has so much influence in Riften, she even goes as far as privately funding the Honor Hall Orphanage. This orphanage is run by Grelod the Kind, who, as you probably know, is the complete opposite of her title. But why would Maven want to fund a place for orphans? Well, maybe it's an act of humanitarianism and it makes her feel less guilt for all the dodgy actions she commits, but I highly doubt it. I see Maven funding the orphanage as a strategic move that potentially has three special purposes. The most basic purpose could be that it makes her look benevolent, minorly redeeming some of her wrongdoings. It improves her reputation in general and puts her in the good books of important contacts, such as the current Jarl, who she has solid control over. Secondly, funding the orphanage also just helps her have more of a monopoly in Riften, as she simply controls more of the city. The final purpose that I believe Maven might have when she funds the orphanage is an attempt to partly exert control over the next generation. Those who control the young control the future, and so on. Therefore, part of the next generation of Riften citizens, thieves, thugs, and those who rise to various levels of power would have grown up knowing that Maven and the Blackbriar family funded their upbringing. With no family, they might see the Blackbriars as the only ones who ever helped them in life. In turn, this could help secure the Blackbriars' influence well into the future. Then again, this could just be what Maven plans, but in reality it might not be as effective as she thinks. I say this because that woman running the place, Grelod the Kind, is revealed to be a horrible person who harms the children, and if she's on Maven's payroll, I'm not sure the kids would grow up to appreciate Maven. Regardless, this would just be sprinkles on the icing, which sits on the foundation of Maven's power. Maven's in touch with all sorts of shady individuals, most notably the Thieves Guild. Before the Dragonborn has a chance to restore the Thieves Guild to prominence, they've been suffering years of dwindling influence and power. Maven, however, provides work for the Thieves Guild, giving them important jobs and paying them for their work. In fact, if you ask her about the guild, she will tell you, the Blackbriar family has always been allied with the guild. Our connections with the Empire and within Skyrim make for a perfect fit. I dare say the guild owes its survival as much to my family as it does to its own people. Maven uses the Thieves Guild for her own purposes, such as sabotaging the competitor of Blackbriar Mead, Honningbrew Mead. She tasks the Dragonborn with attending their meadery and poisoning their supply ahead of an official tasting for Honningbrew Reserve. After a Whiterun official tastes the poison, the owner of the meadery is sent to the Dungeon of Dragon's Reach. Maven truly is ruthless, and if you steal all the Honningbrew Mead from the barrels in the back of the meadery before the quest is done, they'll be restocked with Blackbriar Mead when the quest is finished. In addition to taking over the meadery using the help of the Thieves Guild, Maven also uses the guild to deal with one of her primary suppliers of honey. The Dragonborn is tasked with burning down hives for Maven, not exactly the work of a thief, but paid work is better than no work, and Maven's commands are carried out with strict obedience by this criminal faction. Furthermore, Maven will actually make an appearance to the ceremony where the Dragonborn can be crowned Guildmaster. As a guild member, if you attack Maven or any of the Blackbriars, the quest Reparations can be triggered and you'll have to pay a fine to the guild. But how about the Dark Brotherhood? Well, it's said that she has connections with them, but it appears that it does not run as deeply as the Thieves Guild. After all, Maven is familiar with hiring thugs and mercenaries to kill people or just to guard properties such as Blackbriar Lodge. I imagine she only needs the Dark Brotherhood for discreet and more high-profile assassinations. She'd use them to take out competition or people who cross her that are strategically worth taking out. As far as exploring in-game proof of her dealings with this evil faction, you can find something very interesting in the basement of her Riften residence. Behind a locked door, we will find the disturbing ritual used to summon the services of the Dark Brotherhood, the Black Sacrament. In addition to the required items, such as bones and flesh, there's also a note there written by Maven. The note details her frustration and ridicule of the Dark Brotherhood for their inability to carry out what she refers to as a simple assassination. She says she thought the Brotherhood were meant to be reliable, and if the Dark Brotherhood can't handle it, she'll find someone else who can. Very interestingly, she addresses the note directly to Astrid herself, proving she's familiar with the guild's leader on a first-name basis. Of course, she still has to do the ritual like everyone else, and if her assassination hasn't been handled, maybe she's not as close with the Dark Brotherhood as she acts. Maybe she just knows Astrid's name due to her vast network of informants and connections. Although this is all just speculation. Personally, I think Maven would have some sort of connection with the Brotherhood. She seems to be the kind of criminal leader who can back up what she says. Also, Maven may have a lot of power, but she's not stupid enough to make an enemy out of the Brotherhood by just insulting them, unless she feels she has the right kind of relationship or enough power to do so. It's a mystery who Maven wanted assassinated. It could be the person running Honningbrew Meadery. Some people suspect it's the player, as it would explain the assassination attempts that can be performed on you randomly while you're out and about. On the other hand, the actions of the Dragonborn could be very advantageous for Maven, for example helping the Thieves Guild or helping Maven become Jarl, so I'm not entirely convinced that she'd go after the player so hastily. Alternatively, maybe it's this mysterious Christoph Bartlett character who wrote to Maven and who Maven even wrote back to. His letter says that they had a disagreement a fortnight ago, and he fears that business had gotten the best of their friendship. He says he wants to make amends and mentions he'll be staying at the Bannered Main in Whiterun if she wants to speak to him. He refers to her as Dearest Maven, and it seems like there's quite an emotional tone to the letter. Perhaps they're more than friends. Maven's letter is more confusing and it's hard to know what tone she was using, sarcastic or genuine. Her note reads, "Upon reading your first letter, I was deeply touched. You're right, I was angry, but now I realize my anger was misplaced. It's time to leave our disagreements in the past and rekindle our friendship. I'll be sending someone to fetch you and bring you to Riften. I wish to avoid a scene, so he'll be calling at night. Make sure you pack all your belongings securely, as the journey could be rather treacherous." To some, this may be seen as a sarcastic, sinister way of feigning care, with the person being sent a Dark Brotherhood assassin with the task of killing Christoph. However, unless it's part of some elaborate staged plan, it doesn't really make sense for Maven to hint to someone that an assassin is coming to visit them. If she wanted them dead, she'd just have it done. If you read the note in a different tone, a romantic one, it almost sounds like the two might have had more than friendship. Perhaps this is just a booty call of sorts, and Bethesda put this little note in the game to show that even Maven, as cold as she is, has a slight sweet side. We'll never know for sure, but I definitely thought this peculiar note was worth mentioning. Then, of course, Maven has control over Riften's Jarl, the guards, and even many business owners. So how does Maven do all of this? Well, she's very manipulative. Maven truly has the Jarl in her pocket, and is helped largely by the Jarl's steward, Anuriel. While Anuriel has a seemingly high elf skin tone, she is in fact a Bosmer, aligned strongly with the Stormcloak cause, in a relationship with the Jarl's housecarl Unmid Snowshod. In fact, if you help the Empire take over Skyrim, Unmid Snowshod, Anuriel, and the Jarl, Lila Lawgiver, are all exiled from Riften, while Maven Blackbriar steps into place as Jarl. You could call it bad karma for Anuriel, for she is actually betraying her city, secretly working for the interests of Maven Blackbriar. You see, the Jarl seems somewhat oblivious to the corruption and Maven's shady activities in Riften, claiming that all is well and good. We discover that Anuriel is helping Maven in a letter Maven sent to her. The letter mentions that the position of steward is well befitting of her character, as it demands great cunning, grace, and a talent for performing one's duties tactfully and discreetly. It goes on to mention how she has become an important asset to Maven's operation, mentioning a dress which was gifted with the letter, and Maven notes that as she flourishes, so too will her friends. Maven goes on to remind her to prevent Honningbrew deliveries from entering the city. This is probably why the Jarl is so oblivious, because Anuriel has Maven in her ear, giving her gifts and other compensation for keeping things how Maven wants them to be. In a way, it seems that she is even betraying her lover, Unmid the housecarl. They have an exchange where he asks her to stop declaring the city is so safe, accusing her of even knowing it's not true. She denies this and says, "Tell you what, lover, meet me in my chambers later and we can discuss the situation in private." So it seems she would not only betray her city for Maven's compensation, but also her own lover. She deserves to be exiled, in my opinion. As for the Jarl, she will mention that she's keen to see the Thieves Guild brought to justice, and that Maven has assured her they're being dealt with. She speaks highly of Maven, but just how oblivious she actually is a mystery. Obviously, it makes sense for her to deny anything is wrong with the Blackbriars, as they're a big economic help for the city of Riften. In fact, when Maven visits the Jarl in person, you can hear an exchange between them where Maven demands compensation for a lost shipment, blaming the city guard. At first, the Jarl deems it unaffordable, but quickly changes her tone when Maven threatens to move her meadery elsewhere. She tends to help Maven wherever she can, proven further through a conversation with Anuriel. Anuriel mentions that Maven requires the Jarl seal to expand her shipments into Morrowind, and the Jarl responds by saying, "But of course, tell her she'll have it. Maven is one of the few people I can trust, and I'd be delighted to give her my blessing." It's of no surprise that Maven also exerts power over the jail in Riften, with her own son, Sibby Blackbriar, imprisoned there in the most lavish conditions. In the jail, we can find a note written by Maven saying, "A quick note regarding my son, Sibby. He's to be treated as I'd expect you to treat any one of the Blackbriar family, and all of his requests are to be honored without question. However, if he wishes to be released, you are not to do so unless I expressly authorize it. Sibby needs to learn his place, and the only way that will happen is if he's kept under lock and key. If you go and find Sibby, you'll see that he's in a very luxurious jail cell, serving as yet another example of Maven's power. Now, as I said at the start of the video, Maven is also in with the Empire and the Thalmor. Her ties to both aren't explained in too much detail, but we know that Maven is put in place as the Jarl of Riften if the Empire takes control of it. According to her son, Hemming, it's in part because Maven knows whose pockets to line. Furthermore, Hemming becomes the steward when this happens, and whether he's exaggerating or not, we do not know, but he says, "I'm not sure you realize just how well connected Jarl Maven is with the Empire. With a single snap of her fingers, we could have a legion here in a fortnight." In Darren, the Dark Elf helping to run the meadery in Riften, will also mention that between you and him, he's pretty sure Maven has some pretty influential friends within the Empire. During the quest, Diplomatic Immunity, Maven can also be found at Elenwen's party at the Thalmor Embassy. Not only does this show her ties to the Thalmor, but she demonstrates her own understanding of the social dynamics of those in high places. If General Tullius is there, she will tell you that Elenwen insists on inviting him just to piss him off because he can't stand her. She'll also mention that the drunk Redguard, Razalan, is a high-ranking official in the East Empire Company. You can ask Maven about her presence at the party and her relationship to the Thalmor. In her dialogue options, she can tell you she has dealings with everyone. She says that she and the Starmore have a relationship of mutual respect, and while she doesn't care about the politics between them and the Empire, she respects their power. She leaves them alone and they leave her alone. By now you'd be well acquainted with Maven, but how about the rest of the family? Well, they're much simpler to understand, although their exact family tree seems a bit messy. Well, firstly, there's Hemming, who is said to be Maven's son. He's the one who becomes steward if Maven's made Jarl, and generally speaking, he seems to have more authority than the other two younger Blackbriars, Ingen and Sibbi. Hemming is the heir to the Blackbriar family fortune, and claims to be trained by some of the finest warriors in all of Skyrim to wield a blade as if it were an extension of his own arm. He's highly ambitious, hoping to take Blackbriar Mead to all of Tamriel. What's most interesting about Hemming, however, is that he refers to Sibbi and Ingen as his children. He states, "My children, Sibbi and Ingen, are being groomed to run the family business one day as well." Maven also does this, seen in a conversation between her and Hemming regarding Sibbi. Hemming says, "Why do you tolerate him, mother? All he contributes to this family is embarrassment and disgrace," to which Maven replies, "I tolerate your son because he'll do anything I ask without question. I'd expect the same from my own son." This is super weird, especially considering that both Ingen and Sibbi will refer to Maven as their mother, not their grandmother, and Maven in other conversations also refers to them as her daughter and son. For example, in that note to Rift in Jail regarding Sibbi, she said, "Quick note regarding my son, Sibbi." And when talking to Ingen, she'll say, "Your interests lay where I wish them to lay, otherwise my favorite daughter may end up homeless and without a septum to her name. Is that clear?" To which Ingen replies, "Yes, mother." So if these are Hemming's children, but Maven is the mother of all of them, then it seems like Hemming must be Maven's son from a man we never hear about, and then Hemming and Maven had Sibbi and Ingen together. How else can they be both Hemming's children and Maven's? Knowing Bethesda, I'd say there's a huge chance that this is just an oversight, a dialogue mistake made while creating the game. In the creation kit, Maven is set as Hemming's mother, and the grandmother of both Sibbi and Ingen. Some even believe that Hemming was originally written to be Maven's husband. He can even be seen sleeping in bed with Maven, which is quite peculiar. It's even creepier with just how much he sucks up to her too, constantly referring to her as mother. So develop a stuff up or a powerful family trying to keep their bloodline pure. Let me know what you think of this scandalous situation. What I will do is give you some food for thought though, and say that Sibbi at least was not trying to keep the bloodline pure. As the youngest man in the Blackbriar family, he is stuck in jail for murdering the brother of the woman he was supposed to marry. Long story short, he cheated on the woman he was engaged to, her brother got angry, confronted Sibbi, and then Sibbi murdered him. Standing in his nice cell, he'll tell you he's only in jail for 8 months for this murder, but he's pretty upset about it. He says about his ex-fiancée, "I was about to let that wench marry into the richest family in Riften, and this is how she repays me?" To me, this shows that Sibbi at least was allowed to marry and therefore reproduce outside of the Blackbriar family. Then again, Sibbi is meant to be an embarrassment to the family, so who really knows? He loves the ladies, but he's very malicious. He offers you a quest where you can actually go track down this ex-fiancée who has since fled. But it seems he's not the only lustful Blackbriar. There's a funny exchange between Maven and Helga, who has slept with many individuals in Riften. Maven says to her, "If you ever try to practice the Debellan arts with Hemming again, I'll make sure that pretty little face loses its beauty." To which Helga quips back, "He wasn't protesting, Maven." Quite a risky thing to say to someone as vicious as the head of the Blackbriar family. Now concerning the final family member, Ingen, the woman I wanted my character to marry, believe it or not, when I first played Skyrim. Sadly for 15-year-old me at the time, this was not possible. Ingen Blackbriar is quite different from the rest of the family, but if you listen closely, you'll realize she still has quite the sinister streak. She's working with the alchemist in Riften, and if you ask her about her family, she will tell you that she thinks they squander their wealth on foolish ventures and political schemes. She believes she was meant for more, and wants to pledge her life and talents to darker circles. She says her mother won't let her, but what does she mean by this? Well, it might mean groups like the Dark Brotherhood, to be honest. Her sinister side is observed more when you ask her about her fascination with alchemy. She'll explain, "It's exhilarating to observe the effects of my potions on the body, watching the heart stop, the eyes go blind. We're made up of thousands of parts with thousands of different functions, all working in tandem to keep us alive. Yet if only a single part of our imperfect machine fails, fails, life fails. It makes one realize how fragile, how flawed we are. You ask why I'm so fascinated? The irony that the same world that gave us life provides us the means to die. More than this, the husband and wife who own the alchemy shop can be heard discussing Ingen. The wife expresses concern over her, saying that while Ingen is bright, the things she makes there, the things she says, and all those poor little animals she tests things on, it's just not right. The husband overlooks this, claiming that Ingen is the most promising alchemist he's ever seen. Overall, the Blackbriar family are super powerful, and under the surface, stranger than you might expect. I do wonder if any other family members will be able to run the business as well as Maven when she eventually dies. They've got so much power and influence already, so you'd think it would be hard to ruin it, but if Sibi or Ingen gains control after Hemming, who knows what they'd do with all of that power. Let me know in the comments below what you think about the family tree situation, and whether you think that Blackbriar Mead would taste better or worse than Honningbrew. Thank you so much for watching the video all the way through and for supporting the channel as much as you do. Social media links are in the description below as always, and if you enjoyed our video, I'd really appreciate if you could give it a like. Subscribe to get more sensational Elder Scrolls content. My name is Michael, and I look forward to nerding out with you again very soon.